Uncluttered and Unfiltered is brought to you in part by our latest obsession, pain cakes. Pain cakes are the revolutionary cold pack that stick to you so you can stick to your routine. Whether you're pounding the pavement as a runner like me or you're tackling the clutter as a professional organizer like Christine, Pain Cakes has got you covered. Pain Cakes comes in 3 sizes and can be used again and again. We both keep them in our freezers, and when we feel an ache or a pain, you just stick them on your body. You can do it 100 times. It's all the benefits of using a cold pack, but no downtime. Find Pain Cakes at pain-cakes.com or at thousands of retailers nationwide.
Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back, with nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome, friends, to Uncluttered and Unfiltered. I specifically say friends because that's what we're talking about today. I'm Eden and Christine is here, of course, but we just came off Mother's Day weekend at the time of this recording. How was it?
It was great. I was traveling, so it was my brother's birthday. I drove to South Florida with my mom, and one of my daughters met us down there. So we kind of did an early Mother's Day celebration.
Because you would be on the road on actual Mother's Day.
Yes, I was on the road for the actual Mother's Day. So it was nice. And, you know, we grew up in South Florida, so we kind of, my younger brother flew in also. So we did like a little trip down memory lane, and boy, that'll change you.
Yeah. Especially, you know, it's interesting too, because I didn't have any brothers, but a brother's perspective on things is so different. So to go down memory lane with a brother versus a sister, I mean, if I go down memory lane, there's a lot of things we talk about in this podcast that we can cover. But if I had a brother, there would be a lot of things that probably I had kind of forgotten about.
It's definitely a different perspective. I mean, we went to our lower school, our high school. We did all, you know, our old house. And, you know, I have to tell you that it's hard to go back home again. It can be really emotional, but we had a really, really great time. And we were there to celebrate my older brother. So it was kind of like a mini family reunion. And we had a great time. Haven't done it in a very long time. So it was well overdue.
Wow. Well, I had a nice weekend too. You know, I was really surprised that a few packages had come from my son, and I didn't know this. He sent me AirPods.
Oh, nice.
Like really nice ones that were noise canceling.
Nice.
And so I loved that. And the reason I bring that up is because I didn't realize how noise canceling they were. And I had them on in the car just to test them out. And when I pulled them out, I could hear the whoosh of the air conditioning. It was so incredibly silent other than what I was listening to with these AirPods in these latest versions. But I thought that was really considerate of him to send. And my daughter got me running shorts. And when I asked my son about the AirPods, he said, yeah, you know, I'm running out of running things to get you. And I thought, has that become my whole personality?
Yes.
Is that what we do now? We just look for things on the running spectrum, but that's okay. If it gives them a leg up in trying to determine what to get me as a gift, great.
Well,
if it makes you feel good.
If it makes you feel any better, my older daughter gave me a new beauty tool. So there you go.
You're known as
it was from Face Gym, and it's a rose quartz vibrating, you know, so I haven't used it yet because I just got it. She sent it, but yeah. So you're a runner. I'm like latest beauty tools.
But what's fun is that you and I guested on a TV show recently where we were asked about gifts, and we said beauty gadgets are always great.
Exactly. It's true.
You know, depending on what it is, as you've heard on this show, some work, some don't. So you'll have to give us your unfiltered review.
Oh, I will.
Coming up. So we did say we wanted to talk about friendships and making friends. So we have with us right now, first of all, let me tell you about a study I saw. 45% of adults, 45% say that they find it difficult to make new friends. And the average American has not made a new friend in 5 years.
I believe that.
That's the average American. That's not women over 50.
I believe it. I really do. I think as you get older, you don't have the resources you had when your kids were younger to make new friends. And so you kind of have to be pushed out to be able to join groups, to really make the effort to find new friends. And it's difficult as you get older.
Well, Facebook invited me or recommended to me that I I investigate or apply for this one group and we're in Jacksonville, Florida, for those who are listening globally, this group called Northeast Florida Women 50 Plus Friendship Group. And I'm like, what is this? This looks interesting to me.
Yes.
So the administrator, and we're going to find out a little bit more in just moments about why she is the administrator. It kind of fell into her lap, but she is who I really was excited to stumble on. So Dr. Tracy Riley is with us. She is the therapist extraordinaire. She mixes humor with healing. Dr. Tracy Riley is a PhD in clinical psychology. She has a knack, as I mentioned, for blending humor with healing, which really that makes her not your average therapist. And if you think about it, there certainly is that phrase, laughter is the best medicine. So when you visit her office, it's not just a deep dive into your psyche. Right. It's actually an opportunity for that catharsis, that laughter. And so Doc Tracy, as she is known by, as I mentioned, was doing some, well, we're going to let her tell you about the drink with your strength thing, but she had some really interesting things going on within this group. So hi, Doc Tracy.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. You're
wearing this bright pink. You just exude joy.
She does.
She does. She really does. Yeah. So first of all, let's tell everybody, because I said you're the administrator of this group. It kind of fell into your lap, but aren't you kind of glad that it did?
Absolutely. So I became a member of the group, and the administrator reached out. You know, she just kind of put a post up and said, hey, I need help moderating this group. Is there anybody that would help? And I said, yeah, I'll gladly help, mainly because I'm nosy and women and there might be some drama. So let me find out what's going on. And so I agreed to help, and then she disappeared.
Oh no.
It just kind of fell into my lap. And that was when there were about 400 people in the group. Wow. And now we have 3,200 people in the group. So
wow.
I had to ask for my own set of people. So I have about 6 people that are helping me moderate the group now.
So what's interesting about this group is that you've got these women that will post a photo of themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, like they might say, hey, everyone, I'm 55. I just moved here. I love pickleball and reading. Is there anybody that might want to get together for some pickleball? Or it might be even more specific than that. So that brings us to our first question. Why is it happening? Why are so many women over 50 saying that they're having difficulty just organically meeting people? And why is it important that we do connect?
It is so important for us to connect. And I think what happens a lot of times, especially as women, we wake up one day and we realize we've been taking care of everyone else. We've been taking care of our partners and our children and our coworkers and our neighbors and our parents. And we've been taking care of so many people. And then we realize we've got more days behind us than we do in front of us. And what about me? What about taking care of my needs? And so I think as women, we finally get to that point where we're like, you know what? It's okay to take care of myself. And that's not selfish. And so we figure out, oh, I want to take care of myself, but I don't have any friends. Who am I going to do this with? And so then we start to look around and realize the friends that I used to have, I don't have anymore. So now it's time to find some friends.
So what do you think about that, Christine? I mean, you and I have talked about, you know, you're not in the situation where you're the school classroom mom anymore. You're not setting up play dates for your kids. Maybe you're not in a workplace anymore, or you work from home. So I hadn't even thought about the fact that you're just not even concerned with making friends.
Right. And I think one of the reasons it's so hard to make friends is if you work, you're busy, you may not be very social. So you have like a little bit of anxiety about getting out and about. And so I think your neighborhood virtual isn't so bad if you're really someone who doesn't like to get out. And, you know, our neighborhood does a monthly and for women alone, and then a monthly for the whole neighborhood.
Like a get together?
Yeah. And I really think it was really, really great for women, because the one where it was just women, I never even knew half these people. So when I went, I was like, this is great. I mean, these are my neighbors and I didn't even know them. So something like that is...
Because we don't know our neighbors anymore like we all used to, right?
Right. Back in the 70s and the 80s, we knew probably 90% of our neighbors, but now we're lucky if we know about 5 of our neighbors. And for women, especially as we get to a age, I like to call it the big one because I just experienced the big one back in March. We have this fear of rejection. We have this fear of judgment. No matter what age we get, we still wonder, is somebody going to like me? Do they want to be my friend? Are they going to like the same things that I do? Are they going to think that I'm weird because I feel alone, or because maybe I am a little shy and I don't want to put myself out there? So we all have these insecurities, and we think that we're the only ones that have these insecurities. But the reality is most of the people that I'm meeting and talking to have the same insecurities.
And you are meeting a lot of women. So one of the things, and I said we would get to this and I want to now, is drink with a shrink. So this was something that you created as an event, like a Facebook event, and you invited these 3,200 women that are in this Facebook group. If they wanted to be a part of it, they could send you their email address and you would invite them with a Zoom link or whatever format it was. So how many people showed up? Because remember, it's difficult to get people to actually show up for this kind of thing and say, I really want to talk to a mental health professional. So it's called Drink with a Shrink. And you did, by the way, I want to say this, said this is for entertainment purposes. This is not, a real therapy consultation, because we don't want to give the impression that you're saying, grab some wine and let's get deep. So what happens on this call?
Well, full disclaimer, alcohol is not a requirement. Alcohol is not even a suggestion. You can drink water. You can drink a cup of coffee. You can drink tea. But I wanted to do it as like an open forum to talk about mental health issues. May is Mental Health Month. Mm-hmm. We have such a stigma when it comes to mental health. And so I wanted to just be accessible. A lot of times mental health clinicians are not that accessible. They're not that easy to reach. We have waiting lists, and we have people that aren't answering their phones because they're so busy seeing the people in their offices. And so I wanted to be accessible. And I had about 100 people sign up. And I had just under half of those people actually attend. And we chatted for about an hour. And I talked about the importance of taking care of ourselves as women. And we did have a few gentlemen on the call. So I actually had opened it up to anybody that wanted to drink with their shrink. And we talked about the sense of community and why it's important to have friends and why it's important to be connected to others, and how can we do it, and how can we maintain that sense of community once we've created it.
I love this.
So why don't we share some of those tips that you gave? How do we reach out? How do we make friends? How do we be a part of a community?
There's so many different things that any of us can do. And I'm going to be honest, it's not always easy because we have to put ourselves out there.
Which is, I'm going to stop you right there. That's, I think, a lot of people's problems is they don't put themselves out there. They get comfortable in being at home or being in their normal situation. And actually, I'm speaking for myself here, everybody. But if you're a homebody, it's hard to get yourself out there.
It is. And we're 4 years past the pandemic. And what did the pandemic teach us? We can stay home and we can do everything virtual, doctor's appointments and work meetings and everything. There was online dating or virtual dates that people were doing. So we've learned that we can do so much from our homes. And so now we got to put ourselves out there to meet people. And sometimes meeting friends is even like dating. So we have to put ourselves out there. We have to sign up for things, find these groups where we're talking about community. There's meetup groups and there's Facebook events and there's all kinds of ways to meet people. So we have to do that. Maybe it's time to take up a new hobby. Maybe we want to go back and join a church if that was important to us at some point in the past. But there's always something we can do because we have online things now. We can always find something to do, and we got to get out there and do it.
So it's not enough to go look for it. You actually have to follow it up and do it. Have you heard from any of these people in this group that you stumbled into being in charge of? This group for Northeast Florida, women over 50. Have you heard of any friendships that have united? I saw one person posted who would like to start a kindness group. I thought that was the coolest thing.
That is absolutely amazing. And she has started that. And we have had some spinoff groups within this group, but there are probably 2 to 15 people meeting every single day. People are opening up their homes and saying, hey, I have a pool. Does anybody want to come over and hang out on Tuesday afternoon?
They must not watch Dateline, but anyway.
people are getting together for brunch on Saturday mornings or lunch on Saturday afternoons or going out listening to bands on the weekends or, again, even during the week. So people are making it happen. And sometimes people sign up and they don't show up. But you know what? Sometimes the first step is just signing up. And then they're going to get the courage to go. Because again, naturally, some of us are a little more introverted than others. And it will take a little courage. And we have to encourage and support one another until we can actually show up. And sometimes that's okay. It takes a little while.
One of the things that I've learned from this podcast and really from Christine and then also from our ladies only group that we have is that people are lonely. And the reason I say I've learned that is because, I just made a joke about how like, oh, is this my personality? I'm a runner. But when you do have a hobby that you're very passionate about, you do find that you're surrounded by people. You almost have plans made for you on a regular basis. So I didn't recognize how many women were lonely. And you would say people want connection. You would say it again and again and again. People are just out there. They're looking for connection.
Well, in my job, I deal with a lot of women over 50. And so not only was I seeing it in my job that people are in a different stage of their life, we would talk about it's so hard to meet other women nowadays, now that my kids are up and grown. And then on top of the pandemic of sitting home, I think you're right. It got the okay to be sitting at home all the time, doing everything virtually. So I do see a shift now that's behind us. So I have a really good friend. I mean, she's never home and she isn't married. And I'm always in awe of her because I'm like, God, you go to everything. She goes, you have to, you have to put yourself out there. And I admire that.
Uncluttered and Unfiltered is brought to you in part by Hearts for Minds. Hearts for Minds is encouraging you to use your sidewalk to motivate others for Mental Health Awareness Month. Help break down the stigma of mental illness, spark conversation, and maybe just make somebody's day a little sweeter. It's easy. Grab some chalk and write inspirational messages and pictures on your sidewalk. Snap a photo and share it online by tagging Hearts for Minds on Instagram. And use the hashtag #ChalkItUpForLife. That's chalk it up, the number 4, and life. Let's chalk it up for mental health. Visit Hearts for Minds, that's Hearts, the number 4, and Minds.org to learn more. But what do you think, Dr. Tracy, about maybe a married person or somebody who's in a committed relationship and the partner says, why do you need other friends? Why is your family not enough? Why do you need this outside person or people?
That happens. And unfortunately, and also fortunately, one person cannot meet 100% of our needs. It's just not possible, no matter how great the relationship is. And so it's okay to have multiple people that support you and love you and take care of you. And I think it's great if your partner supports you and says, hey, go make some friends, or even better, let's go make some friends together. Let's go make some couple friends, because some of these ladies say, hey, bring your partner, bring your spouse. Let's all of us go out and get together. And so that's really the best of both worlds.
It is, but it can be very difficult to find that perfect, match in that way. But you had noticed in Drink with Your Shrink, you said the loneliness was definitely a factor.
For sure. Some of the ladies that mentioned their loneliness in this particular event that we just had last week, they've just moved here. Yeah. So they don't know anyone. They haven't been able to find someone to talk to. And they just feel very, very lonely. They've transplanted from another state after being somewhere else for many, many years. And then they're not working. Or if they are working, they're working from home. Mm-hmm. And so they're very isolated. And how do you meet people when you work from home and you don't get out very much? We don't strike up conversations at the grocery store.
I do. I know the produce guy.
But I see what you're saying too. If I'm shopping next to somebody and we do have a friendly conversation, like maybe they'll say, oh, have you tried this before? And let's say we even do have that. We're not going to take it to the next step. Right. I'm not going to say, oh, by the way, do you grocery shop every week? at this time on this day, and I'll meet you back here, that would be considered creepy. You wouldn't wear your heart on your sleeve. And yet you have this group where these women are literally posting their pictures with a description of themselves saying, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm looking for friends. I really hadn't seen anything like it before I stumbled on this page. I really was like, is this for real? Like, is this something different than what I think it is? No, it really is these women that are all in the same area, but they don't have to be. Like, for example, Doc Tracy, our Uncluttered and Unfiltered ladies only group we just hit 1,000.
I know.
And these women will post things like, can anyone tell me what they're using to make their hair shiny? I'm wearing it gray now and it's dull. And everyone chimes in, but they're not in the same city. So they're not getting together. I mean, we'd love to hear that somebody stumbled on somebody within their own neighborhood and they were able to make that connection. But what you're saying is virtual is great. Face to face is very important too.
It really is. As humans, we are designed for connection. We are designed for interaction. That's what we thrive on. That's what we're designed for. And we need that interaction. The pandemic really changed things, but as we're coming out of it, I really hope that we can see more people getting together and spending time with one another, because this helps lower rates of depression. It helps with rates of anxiety. It helps with so much of our mental health to spend time together.
So let's go over those tips one more time, because you mentioned like you might need to actually determine a hobby.
Pick a hobby, maybe a new hobby, maybe a hobby you've done in the past you want to get back into, especially if you've relocated to a new place. Maybe be a volunteer. The hospitals are always looking for volunteers, or the Humane Society, places like that, where you might have an opportunity to interact with other people. The meetup.com is a great place because you can find activities to do based on your shared interest. So that's always a good thing. And then, of course, we do have the use of technology. We can go on Facebook or we can go on other social media groups and find something that connects us to someone else.
At what point do you decide, okay, I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling very, very anxious about that. This is more than I just need to find a friend. I should probably reach out to a mental health professional. Where do you draw the line there? How do you know?
I think it's always a good idea to talk to a therapist. I love talking to therapists. I talk to my therapist every week. Like, there's never not a good reason to talk to a therapist. So even if you don't feel like you have necessarily a mental health diagnosis, you've moved to a new place, you're feeling some isolation and loneliness, call a therapist. They're a good community resource to plug you in to say, hey, I know about this group, or I know about this group. Maybe there's some support groups in the area. So a therapist is always a good link. They do more than just analyze you behind a clipboard and, write a bunch of notes and lay you down on the couch or whatever the stereotype is.
Blame your mother.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
This is fascinating. I hope people take advantage of this. This is life-changing, in my opinion. I mean, really getting out there and having some new girlfriends and people to do things with. I think it's so important to. And what about old friends, reconnecting with old friends?
That's always a good idea. To make sure that you do reach out to your old friends. Maybe they're like, oh, did I upset her? Did she upset me? Maybe there was drama. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe things just kind of drifted apart, and that's okay. But always reaching out to say, did I upset you? Do I need to apologize for something? Because again, and I don't mean to sound sexist, but let's face it, sometimes we're women, we're a little sensitive, we wear our feelings on our sleeves, and we get our feelings hurt. So there's never anything wrong with checking in and going, hey, I just wanted to see how things are going. Would you like to grab coffee? Would you like to sit down and have a phone call? We text so much.
Yes.
So many things get lost in translation.
Oh my God.
When we text. Like,
that's like the bane of my existence with texting. And I feel like I'm alone in that world of texting, because it does. It gets lost in translation. Oh, she was mad at me. No, she wasn't. She just had autocorrect. You know what I mean? It's just so impersonal.
Absolutely. So I tell people all the time, do not text. Pick up the phone, have a conversation. If you want to text someone, say, hey, I need eggs. You know, can you go by the grocery store and grab me some eggs? That should be the extent of your texting.
I love her. Oh my God. This is someone finally gets me.
So I can't even tell you how many times I have thought that somebody is angry with me because of their text. And for the longest time, I would tell my husband, if you don't put an exclamation point at the end of your okay, I think you're angry with me. If I say, hey, do you want to do this tonight? Okay. What do you don't want to do it? What do you mean I don't want to do it? I said, okay. You didn't say, okay, like a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite. If somebody puts an exclamation point at the end, I'm like, oh, I just upset them.
That's what I think. That's me too. If someone puts an exclamation point, they're like, okay.
So there you have it.
Yes.
Right then and there, you can see the discrepancy in how we view what somebody has written. And therefore, how can we all possibly communicate that way? Well, I will say that Christina's opened me up to that in a lot of ways. Like I don't try to over explain anything, or I still creep into that because I try to be so overly efficient that I might just be like, oh, I'm just going to, but picking up the phone, especially like you said, when you're dealing with, an old friend or somebody where there's been a rift. What are your thoughts on, to me, once I hit a certain age, I don't want to deal with drama in a friendship. If there's going to be drama, I just feel the need to move on and find different friends.
I agree.
Because who's got time for that anymore?
And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we love from an arm's distance, and we can do that. We can keep people in our lives that we keep them a little bit further away. We don't have to tell them. We don't have to tell the world on social media, I am not their friend anymore. We can still be cordial. We just don't have to be super friendly and see them on a regular basis. But absolutely, if there's been a rift, if there's been some drama, we can keep them a little bit on the outer circle, if you will. We don't have to keep them close by anymore.
And it's okay to do that.
Absolutely. We have to protect our peace at all costs.
And what about with all the virtual groups and people putting themselves out there with being worried about negativity feedback? You know, I think with social media, there's so much negativity as well. And I think people avoid things like those virtual or, you know, Facebook groups, or because someone inevitably has to chime in and go blah, 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 blah. And then it becomes negative, and then everyone's fighting on this, you know, on the feed. And then I just start laughing because I'm like, who has time for this?
It happens all the time. And actually, I saw a quote just in the last day or two that says, don't let someone's opinion bother you if it's not even someone you would have went to advice for in the first place.
Oh, I like that.
You know, something along those lines. If you wouldn't have went to that person for advice, why is their negative feedback or comments going to upset you?
But they're saying you put it out there. You should have never put it out there. Yeah. And then it becomes this fight. So I think that's why a lot of people don't put themselves out there. Because,
keep it so close to the vest.
They keep it so close because they're worried about any kind of judgment. Like you said, negativity, you know, does my hair look good? Whatever it is, you know,
people will say things.
They'll say anything, and it's because they're hiding behind a screen.
Absolutely. They're hiding behind a screen. But here's what I've learned from someone very close to me, probably in the last couple of months or so. The people that are being negative and nasty, within a week, they're going to forget what they said to you. They're going to move on and say something mean and nasty to someone else. It's not even going to be a blip on their radar. So don't let it be a blip on your radar. Just take it with a grain of salt and move on. And that it takes practice, because I've had a lot of haters myself. So it does take some practice. You just, if you can, you delete it, you block that person, you just move on. They're not in your circle. Yep. They don't need to be in your circle. Just kick them out to the end.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough as somebody who has been the recipient of all kinds of trolling. And let me tell you, it never feels good.
No.
But you can let it roll off you. You can, if you start to remember that whoever it was probably in a really bad mood. Because the only time I've ever looked at somebody's post or picture and even had the inkling of an idea to say something negative, which I would never write it down, but maybe even if it popped in my mind, it's probably because I'm having a bad day or something is upsetting me.
Yeah.
And so if you remember that it's probably a them problem, it does get a lot easier. But again, once you get to a certain age, actually at any age, it's okay to just say, I'm not going to be here for the drama.
Right.
But you should really reconsider high maintenance friendships when you get to be a certain age, because I loved what Doc Tracy said earlier when she said, when you start to have more days behind you than ahead of you, you really have to be selective.
Absolutely. We pick and choose what we do with those days that we have left.
Oh, I love that.
And we're in charge of that, especially when we get to a point, like I'm an empty nester. My kids are grown and gone. And so I don't have to do soccer practice anymore or cheerleading practice or school pickups. Like I'm living my best life and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
Well, that seems like an amazing note to land on. Let's tell everybody the ways that they can find you, Doc Tracy.
My website is just my name, tracyriley.com. If you go to tracyriley.com/events, you can sign up for Drink with Your Shrink. The next one's going to be on June 3rd. And then from there, it's just going to be the first Monday of every month.
Okay. And what you may want to do, depending on where you're listening, is go into a search bar on Facebook and see if you have any of these friendship groups. I mean, obviously you want to do your due diligence always when you're meeting up with anybody, and you want to vet people and be careful. Christine is here to tell you they will get you. The bad guys are out there. They are lurking and waiting to be the next subject of a podcast
or ID channel.
But once you've determined that you're in the right place, then really it's time to kind of let go of those barriers and put yourself out there and create or join a community.
Yeah. Spread your wings and fly. We can do this. And I think the more women that we have building up one another, the better off we are, because the more we succeed, the more we all succeed.
What else can we possibly say? I mean, we end our show always with the same slug line, and I'm trying to think of a way to incorporate everything you just said into that. But before I do that, let me say that if you are looking for a global opportunity to be a part of a community, Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only on Facebook. And if you are in Northeast Florida, I will put a link to that particular group in our notes, in our show notes. And if you can't find a community, you can always start one in your own neck of the woods. So until then, when it comes to holding on to being alone, you can let it go.
And don't look back.
Hi, it's Eden. Christine and I absolutely love bringing you Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast for women over 50. For the first time, we're asking you for your help. A one-time or monthly donation from you will help us with production costs and help us grow this awesome community. Find a link to make a donation in our most recent show notes, in our Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only Facebook group pinned to the top, or on our Uncluttered and Unfiltered Facebook page. And in advance, thank you